Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be taking a look at black fur, the layering process and the colours involved. So if you struggle with creating black fur and all those undertones, then keep watching because this one's going to be for you. Before we start, I want to know what it is exactly that you struggle with the most when it comes to black fur. Pop it in the comments below. So we're going to be building a realistic looking black fur patch based on the techniques I already covered with the first video of this series. So if you haven't watched that, then I recommend that you go and do that first, as this tutorial will mainly focus on the colours and the layering, so I'll link it as a card up above for you guys. Let's start with the base layers. I usually go with two colours for the base of black fur, regardless of its tonality. We'll cover tonality in a bit, by the way, and those are warm grey 1 and cold grey 1 from the Polychromos. I always start by shading down the warm grey and then the cold grey, but it doesn't really matter which is layered first. I like to build up 3 or 4 smooth, even layers of these tones before moving on to the next colour and layering process. With the next base layer, this is where I start to identify tonality within the reference. You need to identify whether you have a warm or cool undertone to the black fur. This can be more easily visually seen within any highlighted sections of your reference photo on the fur. If you're finding it difficult to find the tone of your fur visually with your own eyes, then use a colour picker to accurately depict it for you. When you're colour picking dark fur, your picker is obviously going to pick really dark colours in your little swatch box that pops up, but you want to look at the little spectrum colour range to the side of the swatch that it picks. If your icon is in the red, orange or yellow area, then your fur has a warm undertone, and if it's in the blue, purple, that kind of area, then it has a cool undertone. The fur I'm drawing has a cool undertone, so I've picked out a sky blue Polychromos and I'm using this like a base layer to start to depict that coolness. For warm undertones, you want to pick something like a light brown or a red. With our base tones down, we can start to add in the details with our mid to dark tones. This is where I switch from a shading technique to a fur lining technique. And again, if you're unfamiliar with the technique or need a refresher, head on over to the technique video. I mainly build up the dark tonality of this kind of fur with a dark sepia Polychromos. That's sort of like my mid-tone. And I build the fur lines really close together to get a smooth, dense depiction of fur, especially in the dark shadowed areas. In lighter areas, I spread the fur lines out a little more so that the base tones show through. And I use a dark sepia pencil for both warm and cool toned fur. Every now and then I go back in with one of those base layers and blend out some of the fur lines and redefine a few of the lighter patches. For this I use a fairly hard pressure and I'm sort of burnishing at this point. I burnish in the lighter areas, one, to smooth them out to the same sort of texture as the fur that's building in the dark areas, and also two, because I know that I'm not going to need to add too many more layers down, so I can afford to sort of diminish the truth of the paper at this point. I build many layers of the dark sepia, getting as dark as necessary in the shadow areas before going in with a little bit of a black pencil to really darken up some places. Once I'm happy with the contrasts in the fur, it's time to start glazing colours to really bring the fur to life and give it some dimension. As mine is cool toned, I'm using Delft Blue and Mauve to add tonality and small hints of walnut brown here and there. I'm adding in the walnut brown because when it's mixed with Delft Blue, it creates a really unique dark tone which adds a lot of volume to the black fur. I glaze these colours over the top as it allows to very slightly and subtly alter the tone in specific places. I found that adding too many of these tonality shades under the dark fur layers can give the fur a grey or too blue toned look, so I much prefer to glaze the colours towards the end and over the top. Now, if you were working on warm toned fur, glazes of brown, red and even green work really well to give depth and life to an area. I continue to glaze until I'm happy with the tone and then start to build in a few lighter strands and create a little bit more texture with some of those warm and cold greys, the ones I use for the base tones. I also use the black and do the same, creating really dark lines to just increase the texture all over. And that's pretty much it. It's all about lightly layering and slowly building your tones and analysing what colours you could add to really bring your fur to life. I really hope that you enjoyed this video and that you now feel a little bit more confident when trying to create those black furs. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you haven't already so that you don't miss any of the videos I'm uploading each week to this fur series. Let me know in the comments below which part of this tutorial helped you the most and if you'd like me to make a separate video out of anything covered. If you like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up with that button below, and I can't wait to share more of this series with you guys. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!